The story starts with two mischievous kids who are not only friends but also classmates. Their names are George and Harold, and they share a passion for creating comics. George is talented at writing the stories, while Harold takes care of the illustrations. Unfortunately, their principal does not approve of their comic-making hobby. In fact, the principal dislikes both George and Harold because they are constantly causing trouble and playing pranks, not only on him but also on the entire school. They are quite clever and always manage to avoid getting caught for their mischief. One day, they decide to build a treehouse where they can have fun and work on their comics after school. Their most popular comic book series is called Captain Underpants, and the main character is none other than their principal. In the comic, the principal becomes a superhero, fighting crime in his underwear. As the story progresses, there is a science exhibition held at their school. One student has created numerous inventions, but unfortunately, nobody seems interested in them. The whole event becomes dull and boring. So, what do George and Harold do? They decide to cause chaos by damaging the turbo toilet, causing tissue papers to fly everywhere. This sparks excitement among the other kids, and the entire science exhibition turns into a fun-filled mess. Usually, George and Harold are experts at leaving no evidence behind after their mischief. However, this time, something goes wrong. The smart student who made the inventions also created a turtle with a hidden camera. This camera records all of George and Harold's actions. For the first time, they are caught red-handed. The principal is thrilled because he finally has evidence to punish them. As a result, the principal separates them into different classrooms, hoping to put an end to their mischief-making. This leaves George and Harold feeling sad and thinking about how they will have to adjust to their new situation. They come up with a plan to steal the camera and delete all the recordings, so that no one will know it was them and the principal won't be able to punish them. They sneak into the principal's office to carry out their plan, but little did they know, the principal was one step ahead of them. He had hidden the turtle in his socks and taunted them, saying they wouldn't be able to get the camera. The principal doesn't trust them, so he keeps the camera with him. To further tease them, he starts signing a letter in front of them, stating that they will be in different classes. However, before he can finish signing it, shockingly George quickly hypnotizes the principal with a ring, which he found in his cornflakes. This unexpected turn of events gives them even more excitement. They take advantage of the hypnotized principal and make him act like different characters from their comic book, including Captain Underpants. The principal, now believing he is a superhero, causes chaos and trouble for everyone. The boys realize they have lost control over him and are faced with a new problem. Meanwhile, the principal, thinking he is invincible, decides to fight a balloon gorilla and climbs a tall building. However, he ends up falling from the building and miraculously lands on a group of bank robbers, inadvertently stopping the robbery. The principal's actions make him a real-life superhero in his own mind. Before anyone can gather and question what happened, George and Harold quickly take him away, pretending he is their grandfather. They bring him to their treehouse, and to their surprise, they discover that pouring water on the principal brings him back to his senses and breaks the hypnotic spell. They also learn that by snapping their fingers, they can hypnotize the principal again and make him listen to their commands. This newfound power gives them an advantage over the principal, and they decide to save themselves by bringing him back to his senses and rendering him unconscious. They then place him on a skateboard and send him home. Upon reaching the principal's house, they realize that he leads a boring and lonely life, which explains his rude and weird behavior. The story continues, and the next day, George and Harold attend school in party dresses, free from the worry of the principal. They can now control him whenever they want. However, the principal becomes furious upon seeing them and scolds them, giving them a letter to go to different classes. Before anyone can hear this, they quickly snap their fingers and hypnotize the principal, gaining control over him once again. They start doing even weirder things with the principal, such as instructing him to befriend the school's nanny. Under their control, the principal hires a mad science teacher named PP, which worries the kids. They decide to attend his class for a day and then use their control over the principal to get rid of the scientist. However, they are unsure of what to do next. They want to go to their class and inform the principal that he doesn't have to do anything except sit in anger, and he obediently follows their instructions. Meanwhile, the principal notices a water gun and picks it up. As the water falls on him, he suddenly regains his senses. On the other side, the professor continues to talk to the kids, saying something crazy. It was like he believed that laughter shouldn't exist in the world. He displayed a picture of a brain to the kids and claimed that people laugh because of the purple part. He expressed his desire to create an invention that could remove that part, so no one would laugh ever again. The kids were terrified, but they dared to ask him why he wanted this. However, he remained silent. George and Harold sensed that something was off and decided to investigate further. They returned to the principal's office, only to discover that the principal had regained his senses. Nevertheless, they hypnotized him again with a snap and took a look at the science teacher's file, which hilariously read, Poppy Pants. They found the name funny and even created comic books based on it. The following day, they distributed the comic books throughout the school. When the science teacher arrived at school the next day, George and Harold laughed at him disguised as girls, which enraged the teacher. He locked them up in jail and proceeded to his next class, where the other students also laughed at him. The reason for their laughter was a comic book that revealed his name and reminded him of his past. He used to be a brilliant professor who made significant inventions. However, instead of receiving praise for his achievements, he was ridiculed for his name, causing everyone to laugh at him. This experience led him to only write PP instead of his full name and fueled his desire to eliminate laughter to prevent anyone from feeling insulted. The science teacher, furious, took the comic book to the principal, who was under George and Harold's control. The principal claimed that the comic book was a history book and began reading it. Amidst all this chaos, the crazy scientist had a sudden idea. He remembered the smartest kid in class who was known for his incredible inventions. The scientist believed that only this child could assist him in his mission. And what was his mission? It was to rid everyone of their ability to laugh and prevent anyone from making fun of others. The science teacher began conducting experiments on the boy and soon discovered that the child was just like him, devoid of any sense of humor. This revelation brought great joy to the teacher, as he believed that if they worked together, they could easily eliminate laughter from the world. Meanwhile, these two mischievous boys, they managed to hypnotize the principal and organize a fun fair at the school. All the children, including the principal, were having a blast. However, as night fell, the principal remained unaffected by fatigue and continued to enjoy himself. It was only when rainwater fell on his head that he regained consciousness and realized what he was doing. He immediately planned to scold George and Harold. But before the principal could utter a word, George and Harold attempted to use their magic. Unfortunately, their magic had worn off and no longer worked. They were now separated and deeply concerned about their predicament. However, their worries were interrupted by the arrival of the turbo toilet, a creation of their intelligent classmate. The science teacher had enlarged it to a massive size, allowing it to wreak havoc on the city and steal everyone's laughter. The entire city watched in fear as George and Harold anxiously observed the chaos. Suddenly, the principal approached them. Without hesitation, the boys snapped their fingers, and miraculously, their luck turned around. The principal once again fell under their control. They transformed him again into Captain Underpants, a superhero, and sent him to confront the crazy scientist. Filled with enthusiasm, Captain Underpants bravely went to battle. But since he isn't a real superhero, he lacks the powers of one. The scientist easily captures him. George and Harold aren't so heartless that they would let their principal be in danger. So they quickly go to the science teacher and apologize for mocking his name. Even though they now find his name amusing, but it seems pointless now, as the teacher's anger doesn't seem to be subsiding. He catches them and steals their laughter. He shrinks their brains, but maybe this experiment won't affect them because they have a strong sense of humor. Even with their diminished brains, they remember the fun times they shared and burst into laughter. Their laughter causes the turbo toilet to go haywire. The turbo toilet gets damaged, and the kids' laughter is returned to them. All the children start playing, then the science teacher becomes furious upon seeing them. He pulls out his gun, which can alter the size of things. He captures George and Harold with the gun. Before he can cause more destruction, the principal enters with newfound superpowers, thanks to some chemicals. He quickly grabs the science teacher's gun and uses it against him. This attack proves to be dominant as the science teacher transforms into a giant monster. When the principal tries to use the gun to shrink him, it accidentally backfires and shrinks the principal instead. He becomes so tiny that he can sit on a bee. Amidst all this chaos, the gun falls in front of George and Harold. They manage to grab the gun while also demolishing the towers created by the science teacher. Later, they attempt to enlarge their principal, but in the process, George's hand grows larger. Meanwhile, the science teacher tries to retrieve his gun, but it ends up hitting him in the face. His face becomes small, creating a comical sight of a tiny face on a huge body. This looks incredibly funny. After in this fight, something strange happens. A bird suddenly becomes huge, while the school and someone's house become small. Even the tree grows bigger. In his anger, Harold grabs a gun to fix everything, but when he attacks on the crazy scientist, the scientist sits on a bee and runs away. Just then, the police arrive. Somehow, they all end up in a treehouse with the principal, and now they're really worried. They don't know what to do, and everything seems to be going wrong because of them. After thinking for a long time, they come up with a plan. They decide to break the ring that was used to hypnotize the principal. They hope that by doing this, everything will go back to normal. Even if the principal separates them into different classes, they can still be friends and be together after school. So, they break the ring and miraculously, everything becomes normal again. The next day, the principal comes to school and realizes that he had a friend all along. He's no longer lonely and his behavior starts to change. He's not as rude as before and even smiles more often. He becomes nicer to the kids, and George and Harold have no problem with him anymore. They see the principal having dinner with his friend, and it makes them happy. On the other side, the turbo toilet, which used to ruin everyone's laughter, is now stuck in the garbage. The small toilets around it become just like it, and they come to attack George and Harold because they blame them for damaging the turbo toilet. It seems like there's no way out for our heroes. But then, there's a twist in the story. It turns out the principal can still be hypnotized with a snap of the fingers. He snaps and hypnotizes himself, transforming into the superhero from the comic book, Captain Underpants. He flies into the sky with George and Harold, saving them from the toilets. And that's how the story ends, with them flying away. So, how did you all enjoy this movie? Let's meet again in the next film. Thank you so much for watching and subscribing to our channel.